Captain Jonas Reed stared at the battered hull of his freighter as it drifted through the dim glow of the Outer Rim's nebula. He had seen better days. Once a respected cargo pilot, he now scraped by on odd jobs and small-time smuggling runs. The engines coughed and wheezed, much like Jonas himself, after a long night of bad credits and worse luck. He rubbed the bridge of his nose and glanced at the blinking console that announced his latest contract. Deliver a sealed crate to Donora Station, Zone 3, and collect a modest payment was enough to fix the broken life support and maybe buy a hot meal. The crate was curious. It was bound with black straps and marked only by a simple emblem, a coiled serpent encircling a star. Jonas had never heard of the symbol, but pirates in these parts used strange signs. He kept his blaster close and approached the hold with caution. The quarter lights flickered, and the air smelled stale. With a steady hand, he cut the straps and pried open the lid. Instead of artifacts or weapons, he found a single occupant, a young alien girl. Her wide eyes reflecting fear and curiosity. She was unlike any alien Jonas had seen. Her skin was pale green with subtle silver flecks.
Delicate
ridges framed her cheeks, and her hair flowed like liquid night. She wore a simple tunic that looked both regal and worn. Jonas froze. The girl crouched, pressing her back to the crate's inner wall. She whispered something in a soft, melodic language. Jonas tightened his grip on the blaster, unsure if she spoke friend or foe. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said slowly, his voice echoing in the hold. He knelt and raised his hands to show he was unarmed. She hesitated, then repeated her words, louder this time. Jonas could not understand her, but he sensed urgency in her tone. His gut told him to leave her and complete the job. But as he studied her eyes, he saw terror and desperation. He made a choice. "Come on," Jonas said, unhooking the crate's side latch. He offered his hand. She glanced around, then placed her slender fingers in his broad palm. Her touch was cool and trembling. With a gentle pull, he helped her out. She stood, barely reaching his chest. Jonas guided her toward the bridge. Every step felt heavy with risk. He knew pirates watched every move in that sector. If he carried an alien princess instead of artifacts, his life was forfeit. But he could not leave her to whatever fate awaited inside the crate. In the bridge, Jonas sealed the hold and engaged the engines. The freighter shuddered to life. The girl stumbled for balance, then looked around with cautious wonder. Blinking lights and holoscreens reflected in her eyes. Jonas punched the nav coordinates for Space Lane 7, the route that would take them away from pirate territory. He hit the throttle. The freighter lurched forward, and the nebula's gas cloud rushed past the viewports. As they cleared the outer rim, Jonas tried to communicate. He tapped his comm panel and played a translation protocol. "I am Captain Jonas Reed," it spoke in her tone. "Where are you from?" the device offered. She placed a hand on her chest and spoke into the mic. The protocol struggled then. A fractured accent emerged, "Princess Erin of Valoran." Jonas stiffened. The title princess traveled through the speakers like a warning flare. He glanced at her, and Erin's gaze dropped to the deck. Jonas steadied himself. Valoran was a member of the Galactic Council, a world known for peace and prosperity. If Erin was royalty, then she was a prize beyond any pirate's dreams.
Else.
Felt the weight of danger settle in his chest. Scanned the sector for pursuit signals. None yet. But pirates did not give up easily. Jonas set a course for the nearest safe port, a scrapyard station called Refuge Point. He hoped the shady traders there would hide him. Arin watched the stars drift by. Her breathing slowed as she realized Jonas meant no harm. She fingered a small pendant at her throat, a symbol of her house. Memories flashed. Her childhood halls, her father's voice, the day she was taken. Tears shimmered in her silver eyes. Jonas noticed and hesitated. He did not know her culture, but he knew grief. He kept the engines humming and offered silence. Instead of words, as Refuge Point came into view, a jumble of hulks and salvage bristling in the void, Jonas prepared for the next step. He would dock, arrange passage off station, and plan their next move. He was a man chasing credits, but now he was a man chasing justice. Escorting a princess home was no small task. But Jonas Reed had never been one to back down from danger. He reached beside him, ready to guide Aaron into the unknown future that awaited them in that quiet moment. The two outcasts, captain and princess, shared a silent vow. They would face the galaxy's dangers together. And Jonas Reed, wanted for theft and smuggling, would soon be wanted for much more. The hunt had just begun. Jonas Reed eased the battered freighter into a quiet dock at Refuge Point. The station's metal arms creaked as they grabbed the ship and locked it in place. Jonas cut the engines and waited a moment before speaking. Aaron sat against the bulkhead, her silver-green skin pale under the flickering lights. "We are safe for now," he said softly. She nodded but did not look up. Fear still clouded her large, dark eyes. They stepped into the narrow corridor that led to the station's visitor gate. Jonas moved with practiced care, scanning every shadow. "We need new IDs and passage off station," he whispered. Aaron followed him, clutching her pendant as if it were an anchor. Jonas had bribed a forger before. He hoped the same contact could help them again. They rounded a corner and slipped into a crowded marketplace where traders shouted over machines and hawked salvage. The noise offered cover. Aaron's steps were hesitant. The crowd pressed around them, and she froze when a merchant blocked their path. Jonas gently steered her aside, lowering his voice. "We'll be okay," he said, though his own heart raced. Aaron swallowed hard and let him guide her. They reached a dim stall, where a gaunt man with a scarred face inspected chips and wires. Jonas approached, with credit bars. The forger glanced at Aaron and raised an eyebrow. "That girl's wanted," he muttered. Jonas placed a heavy pouch on the counter. "I know," he replied. "You owe me." The forger took Aaron's scans and worked quickly under Jonas's watchful gaze. He crafted forged travel papers declaring Aaron to be a distant relative of a minor clan. Jonas hoped the disguise would hold long enough to reach a safe system. Meanwhile, Aaron watched from a bench, her gaze distant. Jonas sat beside her. "How did they take you?" he asked gently. Aaron's eyes brimmed with tears. She shook her head and whispered, "They attacked our world. They wanted my father's favor. They held me for ransom." Her voice trembled. Jonas frowned. He reached out, but hesitated. Then he placed a hand on her arm. "I'm sorry," he said. Aaron looked at him, surprised by his kindness. Jonas continued, "When you were in that crate, I felt I had to help. No one deserves to be chained." Aaron sniffled. She uncrossed her arms and allowed a moment of connection. "Thank you," she whispered. Jonas nodded, but the moment was cut short as footsteps echoed nearby. Two men in dark coats approached. Their badges marked them as bounty hunters licensed by the Galactic Council to capture high-profile fugitives. Jonas shot a glance at the forger's stall. The forger froze, then ducked behind a rack. Jonas grabbed Aaron's hand. "Move," he hissed. They backed into the marketplace's maze of stalls, forcing the hunters to shout, "Stop. You're under arrest for kidnapping and theft." Jonas guided Aaron through twisting aisles, past crates of circuit boards and holopads. They turned a corner and found a service ladder. Jonas yanked it down. They climbed into a narrow maintenance shaft, just as the hunters burst into the stall. Jonas pulled the panel closed, muffling the sounds of confusion and angry voices. His heart pounded. In the tight space, Aaron pressed against the wall, fear turning her breath shallow. After what felt like an age, the hunter's footsteps faded. Jonas pried open the hatch and peeked into the station's underbelly. Dim red lights glowed along the metal corridor. Jonas led Aaron down the passage, placing his hand on her back to keep her moving. They emerged near an old cargo elevator. Jonas pressed the call button. When the doors opened, they slipped inside and pressed the button for the lower decks. Elevator descended with a low rumble. Aaron leaned against the wall, her eyes closed. Jonas checked the hallway for patrols before stepping out. They walked past rows of unused containers and stalled tugs. The air smelled of oil and rust. Jonas spotted an old service shuttle with its boarding ramp down, was unguarded, but looked flight-worthy. He nodded to Aaron. "We'll use that." They hurried aboard. Inside, the shuttle hummed faintly. Jonas checked the controls and smiled. The engine still held power. Aaron looked around, her fingers tracing the metal seat edges. Jonas tapped the throttle. With a cough of displaced air, the shuttle rose and slipped into the station's traffic lanes. Jonas navigated through drifting cargo barges, weaving past automated tugs. The station's automated defense grid flashed warnings. But the shuttle's hull blend tricked the sensors. Jonas had wired false signatures before. Aaron watched the docking clamps slide away. The station's lights faded behind them as they emerged into open space. Her chest heaved with relief. Jonas set a course for a nearby nebula, thick gas clouds that hid ships. "We should lose them there," he said. Aaron gave a faint nod. She finally let out a shaky laugh. Jonas glanced at her. "You okay?" She wiped her eyes. I never thought someone would risk so much for me," she said softly. Jonas shrugged. "You're not just anyone," he replied. Silence settled over the shuttle as they approached. The swirling nebula. Jonas engaged the gas matrix drive, causing the stars to stretch around them. Aaron gripped the seat strap, watching the colors dance. Her fear began to transform into wonder. Jonas glanced at her profile and felt a strange warmth. She was a princess, yes, but also a survivor and perhaps now an ally. As they dove deeper into the nebula's heart, Jonas prepared for the next challenge, finding a trustworthy guide, reaching a rebel safe haven, and forging a plan to restore Aaron to her home world. But for this moment, they shared a fragile peace, two fugitives bound by circumstance and growing trust. The hunt would continue, but inside the nebula's embrace, they found a fleeting sanctuary. And with each passing light year, their unlikely partnership grew stronger, ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead. Jonas and Aaron drifted deeper into the swirling nebula, the gas clouds glowing in soft blues and purples around them. Jonas kept the shuttle's engines at a low hum, letting the turbulence hide their trail. Aaron sat beside him, her eyes wide. With a mix of awe and worry, the nebula's beauty did little to ease her mind. She fingered the edges of her pendant, the symbol of her royal house, and wondered if she would ever see her home again. After several tense hours, Jonas brought the shuttle to a slow drift near a cluster of small asteroids. He checked his maps and tapped into a secret frequency. "Rebel Base Alpha, this is Freighter Vesna, questing permission to land," he called. Static crackled before a calm voice replied in accented English. "Landing pad 8. Identification code Delta-5-9er. Jonas exhaled and guided the shuttle toward an outcropping of rock. Landing clamps grabbed the hull, and the engines cut. ARIN studied the landing bay. Crude shelters and cargo pods formed a ring around the pad. Rebels moved in small teams, carrying gear and weapons. Jonas powered down the shuttle and opened the ramp. He offered his hand to Aaron. She accepted, her steps cautious as they walked into the rebel compound. Jonas gave the code to a guard who nodded and waved them through. Inside, the base was alive with activity. Holographic maps hovered above tables, and men and women argued over strategies. At the center, a tall woman in faded uniform barked orders. Her dark hair was tied back, and her eyes shone with determination. Jonas approached her. "I'm Captain Jonas Reed. This is Princess Aaron of Valoran."
No.
The woman's eyes flicked to Aaron, then back to Jonas. "Princess." "You risked this entire base bringing her here?" the woman asked sharply. Jonas nodded. "She's in danger. Pirates and council hunters chase her. I thought you might help." The rebel leader studied Aaron's scans on a nearby console. "If the council finds her, they will destroy us to make an example," she said. She turned to Aaron. "You are safe here, but only as long as you help us. We need your people's support in our fight." Aaron looked at Jonas. He gave a slight nod. "I will help," Aaron said softly. Her voice echoed in the tense air. The rebel leader smiled, then gestured to a side room. "We must plan. Follow me." Jonas and Aaron followed her through a narrow corridor lined with wiring and pipes.
Else.
They entered a small briefing room. Maps of star systems covered the walls. The leader introduced herself as Commander Celine. Celine laid out their cause. The council had grown corrupt, allying with war profiteers and ignoring suffering systems. Valoran had always been just, but after Aaron's kidnapping, the council's true face showed. The rebels wanted to restore honesty to the council and free oppressed worlds. Aaron's story could rally support. Jonas watched as Aaron listened, pride and fear mingling in her gaze. "We need a broadcast," Selena said. "Aaron must address the galaxy. She must tell her people the truth." Aaron swallowed. Speaking to millions terrified her. She had grown up in palace halls, not in front of holoscreens. Jonas put a hand on her shoulder. "You can do this," he whispered. Aaron nodded, gathering courage. Over the next hours, rebels prepared a hidden transmitter. Jonas helped test power converters while Aaron practiced her speech in a quiet corner. She spoke in her soft melodic tone, but the translation probe made her voice clear in basic English. Words were honest and kind, accusing the corrupt council, and calling for unity against pirates and profiteers. Meanwhile, Jonas learned more about the rebels. He met a tech specialist named Mara, who showed him how to cloak the shuttle for future missions. He also trained with a small squad, learning basic combat moves. Jonas was no soldier, but he adapted quickly. He felt a growing respect for these rebels risking everything for justice. As night fell inside the nebula, the time came to send Aaron's message. The base fell silent as holoscreens flickered on. Aaron stood before the transmitter, her green skin glowing under the red warning lights. She cleared her throat. "People of Valoran and all free worlds," she began. Her voice trembled at first, then grew stronger. She spoke of her kidnapping, the council's betrayal, and the need for true justice. Her words spread across the nebula's hidden network, reaching small outposts and sympathetic ships. As the message sent, cheers rose behind her, but celebration was cut short. Alarms blared. The base's sensors picked up fast-approaching ships. Jonas raced to the defense station with Celine and her guards. Outside, council frigates broke through the nebula's edge, their weapons trained on the asteroid outpost. "Tracked the transmission," a rebel yelled. Jonas took position at a turret. Celine directed fire. Aaron stood behind cover, clutching her pendant. The rebel screens showed defenders outnumbered. The frigates began to fire. Explosions rocked the compound. Jonas gritted his teeth and returned fire, his shots forcing one ship to break off. Aaron watched fear and determination mix in her heart. She wanted to help beyond words. A blast hit the wall beside the turret. Debris flew. Jonas ducked. Celine shouted orders, moving defenders to key points. Aaron's eyes scanned the damaged transmitter. If she could restore power, the rebellion would maintain their hidden network. She turned to Mara, who nodded.
Together.
They ran through smoke to the transmitter's core. Jonas continued to fire. Rebels fell around him, but he held his ground. Is advanced. Suddenly, Aaron and Mara reached the core. Aaron's hands worked the controls, reconnecting circuits. The transmitter hummed back to life. A burst of energy blinded Jonas. Outside, a hidden beacon activated, sending a distress call to rebel allies. Within moments, small rebel ships emerged. From hiding behind asteroids, they joined the fight, attacking the council frigates from the flank. Jonas saw the tide turn. Rebels cheered as council ships retreated. Explosions lit the nebula's edge. When the last frigate fled, silence fell over the battered base. Jonas stumbled toward Aaron. She was covered in soot, but glowed with relief. She smiled at him, tears faint on her cheeks. Commander Celine approached, clapping Jonas on the shoulder. "Well done, Captain," she said. Aaron nodded. "It could not have held without you both." As they surveyed the damage, Jonas thought of the journey so far. He had saved a princess, become a rebel, and faced the council's might. Aaron had found her voice and led a fight for justice. Together, they had changed the course of the rebellion. Night deepened in the nebula. Fires burned at scattered points in the asteroid field. Jonas and Aaron walked through the compound, past injured rebels and smoldering ruins. Jonas shut off a flickering panel. Aaron touched his arm. "Thank you," she whispered. Jonas shook his head. "Thank you," he replied. "You've saved more than your world today?" Aaron looked up at the nebulous, swirling lights beyond the compound ceiling. "We still have a long way to go," she said. They had won this battle, but the war for the galaxy's soul had only begun. Together they would carry hope to Valoron and beyond. Their partnership had become more than necessity, had become purpose. And with that purpose burning in their hearts, they prepared for whatever the next dawn would bring. Jonas Reed and Princess Erin stood at the edge of the rebel base's courtyard as dawn light filtered through the nebula's tinted clouds. The night had been long and costly. Wounded rebels lay on stretchers and smoke drifted from damaged shelters. Jonas watched Commander Celine oversee the cleanup. He wondered how many lives they had saved and how many more would be lost before this war ended. Erin touched his arm. "We must move," she said. Her voice was firm now, with the steel of a leader. Jonas nodded, and together they walked toward the hidden shuttle. Inside the shuttle, Jonas checked the navigation console. They needed to reach Valoron's nearest port, a quiet world called Sonara. Erin's broadcast had reached many systems, but Sonara was known for its neutrality. If they could gain safe passage there, they might rally support without immediate move. "Danger," Jonas set a course. The engines hummed, and the shuttle lifted off, leaving smoke and ruin behind. Ari seated herself, studying the star charts. She fingered her pendant, her thoughts turning to her family. She closed her eyes and whispered a prayer in her native tongue. Jonas gave her space, glancing at the flickering hollow screen. As they jumped into hyperspace, he reviewed their situation. They had allies, but resources were low. The Council would send more ships once they had threat assessments. Jonas hoped their next stop would buy them time. After the jump, the shuttle emerged near Sonora's orbital station. Jonas piloted carefully, avoiding patrol sensors. He found a shadowed approach vector and guided them through asteroid debris. The shuttle's hull blended with the rocks. Sonora's station loomed, a vast ring structure with docking bays on the dark side. Jonas contacted the station's docking control on a secure frequency. He used forged credentials. "Grant us landing clearance," he said. The reply came with a delay. Then a curt voice answered, "Assignment, cargo shuttle. Land at Bay 12. They docked without incident." Sonara was calm compared to the rebel base. Corridors inside the station were clean, lit with soft white lights. Jonas and Aaron wore civilian clothes beneath cloaks. They stepped into the arrivals hall. Travelers passed with luggage and cargo manifests. Aaron's eyes flicked to every uniform badge. Jonas led her to a quiet corridor. He tapped an access panel and keyed in a code. A hidden door slid open, revealing a small, disused office. Inside, Jonas had set up temporary comms equipment. He motioned Aaron to sit. "We have a chance here," he said. "This station's leader, Governor Tari, cares about fairness. She might listen to your words." Aaron nodded, though uncertainty marked her eyes. Jonas opened the comms terminal. He adjusted settings to broadcast directly to the governor's office. The green light blinked, and the feed connected. Jonas spoke first. "Governor Tari, this is Captain Jonas Reed and Princess Erin of Valoron. We request an audience to speak truth to your council." Erin's image appeared on the governor's screen, her face resolute. Moments later, they were escorted to a grand chamber overlooking Sonora's world. Governor Tari was a tall woman with silver hair and kind amber eyes. Beside her stood several council members. Tari greeted them with measured warmth. "Princess Erin, Captain Reed, welcome to Sonara. We have heard your message. What do you propose?" Erin stepped forward. She spoke of the pirates' greed, the council's corruption, and the rebellion's cause. She spoke of justice, hope, and unity among worlds. Her words were clear and heartfelt. After the speech, the chamber fell silent. Tari studied Erin's pendant on the holoscreen. "Your family's emblem," she said softly. Aaron's hand went. To her chest? Yes, she replied. I speak for my people and for all oppressed systems. A council member leaned in. If we aid you, we risk council wrath. Tari raised her hand. We will not stand silent. We have laws to protect the innocent. I propose Sonara declare neutrality and offer sanctuary to all refugees. Murmurs rose in the chamber. A young official spoke. We also can send aid ships medical food supplies. Tari nodded. So be it. Jonas exhaled, relief flooding him. Aaron glowed with gratitude. Tari placed a hand on Aaron's shoulder. We welcome you home, princess. Sonara stands with Valoran's true people. Outside, Jonas watched guards carry relief crates through the docking bay. Aaron turned to him, tears in her eyes. You made this possible, she said. Jonas shrugged. You inspired them, he replied. Aaron smiled. That night, Jonas and Aaron walked the station's observation deck. Below them, Sonora's oceans shimmered under twin moons. Aaron spoke of her childhood games by palace, fountains, and of her father's laughter. Jonas shared stories of his past lost cargo runs, imprisoned thrills, the moment he decided to free her. They laughed together, their bond deepening beyond necessity. Suddenly, alarms rang across the station. Red lights flashed. Jonas grabbed Aaron's hand. What now? He asked. The guard ran toward them. Incoming fleet, he shouted. Council! Warships entering system. Jonas's heart sank. The council would not let Sonara aid a rebel princess. It would strike to make example. Jonas led Aaron back inside. They needed a plan in the command center. Governor Tari and her council members stood before holoscreens, showing 5 council frigates warping into the system. Tari's face was grim. They ignore our pleas. They demand the arrest of Princess. Aaron. Aaron stepped forward. I will surrender if it stops their ships from firing on your world. Tari shook her head. No, we fight for justice. Jonas braced for battle. Tara gave orders. Sonara's defense turrets activated. Rebel. Fighters and neutral squads took positions around the station. Jonas returned to the hangar, found the shuttle and a small rebel gunship. He helped load supplies into both. Aaron joined him. She placed her hand on the shuttle's hull. Thank you, she said. For everything, Jonas nodded. We'll get through this, he said. As council frigates moved into firing range, Jonas fired up the shuttle's engines. Rebel pilots climbed into fighters. Nebulous clouds drifted near, offering cover. Jonas slipped the shuttle into a hidden bay. Aaron climbed aboard a gunship beside him. Jonas grasped the controls. Hold on, he said. Outside the first, beams of council fire lit up the dark space. Jonas guided the shuttle out, weaving past turrets. Rebel fighters intercepted enemy fire. Aaron's gunship darted forward, blasting incoming missiles. The battle had begun. Jonas looked at Aaron, her eyes bright with resolve. Together they would defend Sonara, and their fight for justice would burn like a star in the darkness. Jonas Reed gripped the shuttle's controls as council frigates, unleashed torrents of plasma fire on Sonara Station's outer ring. Alarms shrieked through the corridors, and the station shuddered with each impact. Jonas guided the shuttle through a narrow maintenance tunnel, both to avoid direct fire and to reach the hidden gunship bay. Beside him, Aaron sat tense in the co-pilot seat. Her hand pressed against the window as she watched enemy tracers scorch the station's hull outside the tunnel's exit. 2 small rebel gunships waited, their engines glowing at low power. Jonas eased the shuttle into the bay and cut the engines. Sparks danced from overhead conduits as the station rocked again. Rebels in dark uniforms rushed forward, loading missiles and energy cells into the gunships. Jonas and Aaron climbed into the lead craft. Jonas strapped himself in, and Aaron instinctively touched the pendant at her throat. We can do this, Jonas said, though his voice shook. Arin nodded and took the second seat. Jonas flipped switches and powered up the engines. The hangar doors slid open with a groan. Council beams struck the far wall as the gunships darted out into space. Jonas banked hard to starboard, weaving through blazing debris. aimed the ship's weapons at a council fighter swooping toward them. His hands moved swiftly, firing bursts of charged bolts. The fighter veered away, its shields dimming under the onslaught. Aaron tapped the gunship's come. "All units, focus on the lead frigate's weapon arrays," she called, her voice calm but firm. Jonas felt a thrill at her command. He pressed the throttle and dove toward the massive council ship, dodging torpedoes that tore chunks out of nearby asteroids. Behind him, rebel fighters fanned out, engaging enemy escorts. The frigate opened fire, its heavy cannons roared, and a wave of plasma hit the first rebel gunship. Jonas saw the ship erupt in flames as it spun out of control. He shouted to Aaron, "We need a clear shot at the frigate's main cannon." Aaron studied the displays and mapped a course around the frigate's flank. Jonas banked the gunship sharply, exposing its underbelly. He locked target sights on the cannon array. Aaron's hands moved over the controls. "Fire on my mark," she said. Jonas steadied the ship. "Ready?" Aaron counted down. 3, 2, 1. Now. Jonas unleashed a volley of missiles. They streaked across space, impact flashes lighting the frigate's hull. One missile found its mark, blowing open the weapon turret. Sparks and shredded metal rained outward as the frigate staggered. Rebels cheered over the cum channel. Other gunships pressed the attack, focusing on escort fighters and protecting the battered shuttle crew below. Jonas gritted his teeth and banked away as the frigate spun to realign its damaged turret. Council fighters swarmed his position, and heat signatures flared on his sensors. He flicked a switch, activating the gunship's heat dampeners. The fighters overshot, chasing false trails into the nebula's glowing haze. ARIN guided the launch of proximity mines near the frigate's side. Within seconds, explosions rocked its hull. Alarms echoed on the gunship's console. Jonas banked back in. "We've got one more chance to finish this," he said.
Aaron nodded.
"Rally the fighters. We hit the engines." She accessed the cum. "All pilots concentrate fire on the frigate's engines. Cannot escape." Behind them, a squadron of rebel fighters swooped in, launching torpedoes at the frigate's rear thrusters. Jonas followed, dodging laser beams that cut through the darkness. He found a clear firing solution and released his payload. The ship lurched as torpedoes tore into its drive core. A massive explosion consumed the frigate's rear section. Debris and fire swept outward, and the ship began a slow drift. The remaining council vessels hesitated, their formation broken. Aaron's voice crackled. "They're pulling back." Jonas let out a breath he did not know he held. The rebels pressed forward, forcing the escorts to cover the crippled frigate. Small rebel craft flocked in, harassing the council ships until they finally warped away. Space fell silent, except for distant alarms and the hum of the nebula gas. Jonas guided the gunship back toward Sonara Station. The hangar doors opened, revealing scorched walls and crew tending to wounded. Jonas and Aaron landed with trembling hands. As they climbed out, Governor Tari met them, her uniform streaked with soot. She embraced Aaron. "We did it," she breathed. Aaron's eyes shone. "We did it together." Jonas eased himself out, his legs heavy. He watched rebels carry stretchers and repair teams weld, cutting through holes in the hull. Despite the damage, the station stood proud. Sonara's defenders had fought with courage. Jonas felt a swell of pride and relief. He approached Tari. "How many lives saved?" he asked quietly. Tayar shook her head. "Too many lost," she said, "but enough hope remains." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Thank you, Captain, and thank you, Princess." Taryn joined them, resting. Hand on Jonas's back, Jonas managed a small smile. He looked at Aaron and thought of how far they had come, from a stolen crate to leading a defense that would be remembered across systems. That evening, the station's halls filled with hushed celebrations. Doctors repaired wounds and traders offloaded relief supplies. Jonas found Aaron in the observation lounge, watching Sonara's blue ocean swirl under moonlight. He sat beside her. She handed him a cup of warm tea. They sipped in silence, the taste bitter and sweet. Arian spoke first. "My world will know your name," she said softly. Jonas shrugged. I'm just a smuggler who found his purpose. She turned to him. No, you are more. You stood by me when no one else would. Jonas met her gaze. And you gave me a cause worth fighting for. They sat in quiet comfort until Selene arrived with a message. Princess Erin, council ships have blockaded your homeworld's port, she said. They will force entry at first light. Jonas stood abruptly. Can't let that happen. Erin rose, determination burning in her eyes. We return to Valoran. We show the people that their true princess leads them. Jonas placed a hand on her arm. It will be dangerous. Erin smiled. I know, but it is right. Governor Tari joined them. You have our blessing and our ships. We stand with you. Jonas looked at the older woman and bowed his head. Thank you. Erin clasped Jonas's hand. Together, she said. Jonas nodded. Together. Sonara's repaired fighters gathered in the hangar bay. Jonas and Erin walked toward their shuttle. Outside, the stars glimmered through the nebula's mist. Jonas took one last look at Sonara Station, its lights like lanterns in the void. Then he turned to Erin. Ready? She nodded, her grip firm. Jonas opened the shuttle's hatch. They climbed inside and sealed the door. The engines rumbled. Jonas punched the throttle. The shuttle rose, slipping past the hangar doors. Behind them, Sonara stood as a beacon of hope. Ahead, Valoran's world awaited. Jonas guided the shuttle into space lane 7. Erin pressed her hand against his. Together, they soared toward the next battle toward home. ChatGPT said. Jonas Reed guided the shuttle out of Sonara's orbit and into open space. Princess Erin sat beside him, her green skin softly lit by the instrument panels. Behind them, Sonara's fighters followed an escort, a small armada of hope. Jonas set a steady course for Valoran. He tapped the nav computer. We should arrive before dawn, he said. Erin nodded, her eyes bright with resolve. She clutched her pendant, thinking of her people who waited at home. As hyperspace shimmered around them, Jonas studied Erin's face. No longer looked like the frightened girl in a crate. She was a leader now, a princess, ready to claim her place. He remembered the day he found her, hidden among artifacts. He would never forget how courage grew in her heart and how trust had grown between them. In the cabin's quiet hum, he felt pride and worry entwine. They faced the council's might once more, and this time the stakes were higher. Hours later, Valoran's pale blue star appeared on the view screen. Jonas left Sonara's fighters. To circle the system, they would protect the station from council ships until Sonara withdrew. Jonas brought the shuttle in toward Valoran's main port, a floating city of white towers above a shining sea. The port's defenses were silent, council. Warships waited beyond the horizon. Jonas frowned. They had to land without drawing fire. We'll use the old freight slip, he said, pointing to a small docking arm on the city's underbelly. It was less guarded than the main gate. Erin studied the layout. It's risky, she said. Jonas shrugged. We have no choice. He guided the shuttle toward the slip, weaving between cargo freighters and supply pods. The shuttle's forged transponder code held for now. Inside the freight slip, the shuttle bumped against the dock. Jonas cut power and held his breath. Alarms did not sound. He exhaled and opened the ramp. Erin stepped out, dressed in simple robes that hid her royal colors. Jonas stayed close. The cargo bay was empty, but for a few crates. Jonas closed the ramp behind them and sealed the hatch. They moved through the cargo tunnels, guided by Hall. Erin's heart pounded. These passages led directly to the palace's lower levels. Guards patrolled, but the tunnel's curves hid them. Jonas led the way, his hand on his blaster. Erin followed, steadying her breath. As they neared the palace, voices echoed ahead. Jonas slipped behind a crate and peered around the corner. 2 council officers stood before a console, barking orders. They spoke of a princess who had stolen ships from Sonara, calling her a traitor. Jonas waited until they turned their backs, then slipped past. Erin trailed close. They climbed a narrow stairway to the palace's servant corridors. Torches cast flickering light on stone walls. Erin's memories returned. She had once raced down these stairs as a child, hiding from tutors. Jonas noticed her pause by a carved relief of her family crest. She placed a hand on the stone. "Home," she whispered. They reached an archway. That led to the throne hall. Outside, guards marched in tight ranks. The hall's massive doors stood closed. Jonas laid a finger to his lips. "We need a distraction," he said softly. Erin nodded. She offered a small communicator. Jonas tapped it, sending a signal to Sonara's fighters. Outside, muted explosions rocked the palace's outer walls. Alarms blared. Guards ran toward the gates. Erin and Jonas slipped through the outer doors as they opened. Inside, the throne hall stretched before them, marble floors, golden pillars, and stained glass windows filtering sunlight. At the far end sat Chancellor Sovin, the council's appointed ruler. Beside him stood the council's head of security, flanked by armored guards. Erin's heart thundered. Jonas gripped her arm. "Wait for my mark," he whispered. The guards outside clashed with Sonara's fighters at the gates. Sovin rose, anger burning in his eyes. "Princess Erin, you stand accused of treason," he declared. Erin lifted her chin. "I am not guilty," she said, her voice ringing in the hall. Jonas stepped forward, placing himself beside her. "Your Highness," Sovin sneered. "This man is a smuggler and pirate. He brought you here illegally." Erin turned to Jonas. "Is it true?" she asked. Jonas squared his shoulders. "I brought her here because she is the true heir. She was stolen from her home. I did what?" "Was right," Sovin laughed. "So a criminal claims royal right?" Erin took a step forward. The council hid the truth. "My kidnapping was blamed on rebels. You covered it up to fuel war." She pointed at Sovin. "You profited from suffering. Fleets attack systems for profit. I freed myself, and I freed hope." Jonas raised his hand. "Look around," he said. "Your people suffer. Planets burn. Families starve. Princess Erin speaks for justice." Outside, the hall's doors flew open as Sonara's fighters and rebel allies poured in. The guards froze, caught between orders and conscience. Chancellor Sovin drew his saber. "Seize them," he shouted. Shouted no, and fired a stun shot at the armored guard nearest him. The blast hit the wall, startling Sovin. Erin moved with grace, taught by palace guards. She disarmed the head of security with a swift motion, sending his rifle clattering. The hall erupted into chaos as palace guards hesitated. Jonas and Erin fought side by side, but Jonas kept his shots aimed low. He did not want to kill. Sovin lifted his saber and faced Erin. "You will kneel," he snarled. Erin steadied herself. "Never," she replied. She reached inside her robe and drew a small hollow pistol. Sovin's eyes widened. He lunged. Erin sidestepped and fired a stun blaster at his leg. Sovin collapsed, his saber clattering. Silence fell. Erin knelt beside Sovin and pressed the blaster's barrel to his temple. "I could end this now," she said. Guards gasped. Erin stood slowly and sheathed the weapon. "But I will offer mercy," she said. She glanced at Jonas. He met her. Eisen nodded. Erin addressed the room. "I reclaim my right as Princess of Valoran. I call for peace and truth. Those who follow me will live. Those who oppose will face justice." A murmur ran through the hall. One by one, palace guards lowered their weapons. The council members surrendered. Outside, cheers echoed as the news spread. Jonas placed a hand on Erin's shoulder. She looked at him and smiled. Together, they had changed the fate of a world. That evening, Valoran's people filled the streets. Lanterns glowed against the night sky. Jonas and Erin stood on the palace balcony. She wore her royal robes again, shining blue and silver. Jonas wore his pilot's jacket, patched and worn but honored. Erin raised her pendant and held it out to the crowd. "I am home," she called. The crowd roared. Jonas watched her, his heart full. Erin turned to him. "Thank you, Jonas. Read." "You saved me, and you saved my world." Jonas bowed. "It was my honor, Your Highness." Erin smiled. She slipped her hand into his. partner, she said. Jonas returned her smile. Below, the people cheered for the new princess and her smuggler hero. The galaxy would soon know of their story. But for Jonas and Aaron, this was just the beginning of a new adventure, one of peace, justice, and hope across the stars.